Hey, everybody. Really happy to be here with you again on the Gussy's Gut podcast. And I'm here with Alysa from FOND Bone Broth. And I am actually a real customer, like a legit customer. Been one for a very long time. And probably the best reason I can give you, first of all, it tastes great, but is sourcing. That's my big prerequisite. It is with our company. It's that definitely that way with what goes in my body and my dog's body. And my dog gets one bone broth, I get another one. So welcome, Alysa.
Thank you so much for having me, Rob. And I'm so excited to be here with the Gussy's Gut family. I have 6 boys, so they certainly keep me busy. But luckily, I have 2 Aussies that help me herd them quite literally. Uh, and it's not often that I get to talk about my fur babies. So I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you about all things broth and sourcing, and of course, bonnet and bear as well.
Yeah, my level of respect for you just went up a notch when you said 6 boys. Holy cow. Wow. Well, it's now I know, being in my business, how challenging it can be for sourcing. I also know your space fairly well.
Yeah.
Um, and how challenging it can be for sourcing. So I am very, when I said I'm very particular about what goes in my body, my pet's body, it's actually the same. I don't say, just a dog. I can, you know, it
Yeah.
can it can get this version of bone broth. It's cheaper or whatever. I just can't do it. It's what I would eat, what I would drink, and so when I look at labels and sourcing, I'm very super particular about both what goes in both of our bodies. So I'd like you to share with the audience just like what level of criteria you have for your sourcing, and just tell us a little bit about that part.
Yeah. So we just celebrated 10 years in business. And the reason that that's significant for our sourcing is we started Fond before the bone broth trend really took off. I started it, out of a personal health crisis, and bone broth saved my life. And the commitment to sourcing has been there since day one. And so I knew just how significant. I was so sick that I could actually, my body could tell the difference between pasture raised chicken, grass fed, grass finished beef, and the conventionally raised version. So for me, like, I didn't have a choice when I was starting out. I was that sick. I really needed things that did not have any additional contaminants in there and was as clean and nutrient dense as possible. And so always, we can navigate these points of friction really for our benefit, right? And so after going through that and understanding, like, my goodness, Fond really started to grow. So we've always had 2 paths before us, right? And indeed, some of our competitors have loosened their sourcing standards to be able to grow so quickly with this trend, and we were just not going to do it. And so we have been a slow and steady, the little engine that could up that mountain, growing with our sourcing partners. We share some of the same sourcing. We source from White Oak Pastures. You guys do as well. We are fiercely committed to supporting US farms. And so we will not go to
Good.
Australia or New Zealand or Uruguay. Not that that's like inherently bad, but our mission is just like, we want to serve and support regenerative farmers here in the US.
Yeah.
And so what's been really fun and exciting is that because we have grown with our suppliers and this movement is growing and it's gaining so much traction. I mean, this year we launched in our first conventional chain, Albertson Safeway. I mean, over 2,700 stores with a regenerative tallow. And it's just incredible to be here. This month, we will do more than like 10 times our highest month in our history. And that sounds like it's not. It's a confluence of a lot of factors, right? We have bone broth, then we launched tallow. So now we've got 2 things that we're selling.
Yep.
But the traction, and to be able to do that with integrity, Rob, and to be like, hey, guess what? I haven't compromised at all. Like we got to this point and our customers are experiencing a product that is as good, if not better than when I launched it at the farmer's market. Like that is what I have so much pride in for this product. And that our customers can really, really trust us. Like we, you know, you're not going to be able to do anything perfectly, but gosh, are we going to get as close to it as you can on planet Earth? So
Did you have ever anybody come to you? I have not, but I know a lot of companies have that start out with this really idyllic quality, start, and then they get approached by like a few $1,000,000 or many $1,000,000, and they say, "Hey, if you just did this one little sheet, cut this one corner. If you went to this supplier." So did you have that experience?
Yeah. So I mean, number one, I'm sure your audience knows this, but we package in glass, and part of the reason that we do that, and I'm like I'm so committed that I'm like reading chemical packaging today. Like I want to know, right? Like what's the latest and greatest. And so glass is the most inert substance on the planet. In fact, like some of the biggest contaminants in our food are actually packaging. Yep. And of course the production method too. Like you can package in glass and have a really bad process and still unfortunately have phthalates in there, microplastics, things like that. But we are just trying to be as pure as possible. That taste and flavor comes through in our product. And absolutely. I mean, number one request that we have, we haven't taken any VC or institutional funding, which is really amazing. And one of the reasons we have not done that is they always want us to move to a cardboard box. Well, that sounds like it's no big deal, but actually the entire process changes because our product is, it's a retorted product. It's pressure canned. It's an anaerobic environment, which means, there's the absence of oxygen. It's vacuum sealed. That has to be done through a very stringent, USDA process for beef, I'm sure, as you know, and then FDA process for chicken. Yep. And when you move to a cardboard box, you're using an aseptic environment where you are like rehydrating a concentrate or a liquid. You're no longer cooking, right? Our bone broth is chicken feet, beef knuckle, spring water, organic vegetables and herbs. Like it is simmered. It's a kitchen, right? It's a commercial kitchen, but it's a kitchen. We're making a product. When you go to most food manufacturing facilities, specifically for broth, they actually are just rehydrating a powder or they are reconstituting a concentrate. And anytime you do that, you're going to have higher histamine levels. You're going to have nutrient degradation. One of the things people are surprised by is there's only one of our flavors that even tests for any histamine levels, and it's not very high, and it's the one with mushroom. Bone broth typically has histamine reactions for people. For some reason, a majority of people who struggle with histamines can tolerate ours because of the way we produce it. So, I mean, there's that. The other part is, we want you to get the benefits from the bone marrow, of course, but there are also a lot of benefits from the meat parts. And so we also use meat parts in our bone broth. Nothing goes to waste. The bones are actually composted afterwards. It's a really beautiful process. But another corner to cut is just to cut out the meat bones. Well, if you're cutting out the meatier parts, you're not only cutting out nutrients, but you're cutting out flavor. And we want everyone who tastes this product to love it. So especially as the premium product, we work really hard to make sure, I'm sure as you do, like we have really high-end ingredients. We have, always looking to improve, but want to have a state-of-the-art customer service experience. And we still want to make money as a business, right? So that's the goal and the challenge before us. And we've had competitors come to us to buy us, looking to do just that, to kind of absorb it into their line. And it's just not something that we're going to compromise on.
Yeah. I mean, let's go back to something. I want to go back to packaging in a second, but I want to go back to you were the canary in the coal mine. So you highly reactive to things.
Yeah.
So just go a little bit into that, because I think that's really interesting, both for dogs and cats and people. My mom is that way. So my mom's highly sensitive to all sorts of little, she's very particular about what she puts in her body. And she's just got this, like, it's like she describes it, I describe it like, sometimes the gun is loaded and it just takes that one thing to fire it,
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your personal experience, whatever you feel comfortable
Yeah.
sharing.
So, I was 5 years old when I had my first emergency surgery. So it was just a genetic defect affected one of my kidneys. And so I'd kind of always, and I had a very normal childhood, was very athletic, did well in school, but it sort of started to come home to roost, like the effect of the stress and, the gut dysbiosis. And it really culminated to me being very malnourished in my early 20s. And I was married and we were looking to have our first kid. And I will never forget it. We finally did get pregnant. And the midwife said to me at the time, like, you are not going to keep this baby to term. You are concave. And I've always been the kind of person where it's like, if someone tells me I can't, it's pretty good motivation to
You'll summon the power.
It's like, So, I posted recently on Instagram, me and Never have never really gotten along. And there's some of that, like, when you experience health difficulties, there's a beautiful resilience that develops in you. And so I let, the canary in the coal mine. I think also it's like, you've got some reps and you're like, okay, I've seen this before. I'm not going to go down this path. And so I did have a beautiful baby boy, 9 pounds, my first one. But 5 months postpartum, I had my second emergency surgery. And in the post-op, they told me I was going to need another procedure in 3 to 6 months. So I'm 23 years old. I'm like, oh my word, this will be my third, surgery in my life, major surgery. This cannot be the trajectory of my life. And so it was the first time that I really sat down to be like, what is gut health? How do we get this? Thankfully, by God's grace, Sally Fallon had written Nourishing Traditions, and I was able to read at that time. Dr. Natasha had just released Gut and Psychology Syndrome, right? And so this is in 2012, and I'm reading about the importance of bone broth, how it spans cultures and centuries, and it's missing from the modern diet. I'll never forget, there was like a discovery of Paleolithic man's soup cupboard, and it was all these marrow bones that when they couldn't find a hunter, they presumably they rehydrate it, they have a soup. So it's some of the earliest, most nutrient dense foods we've ever had. And it fell, now it's thankfully available widely for most people, but it had completely fallen out of our diet. And so what happens then is, so really leaky gut syndrome is when the tight junctions in the body, in the stomach lining, they have holes in them. They become permeable. And so even good foods, also toxins, go through that and pass into the bloodstream. And then the body tags it as, this isn't good for me. This is an antigen. I can't have, they put antibodies on those things. And so what's hard is that you can get it if you aren't taking care of your gut, you can quickly come to a situation where you're reacting to a lot of things, right? Even things that are good for you, you can't process them, or your body has tagged them as not good for you because they've passed through your into your bloodstream in a way that they should not have done. And so bone broth is essential because it has collagen, gelatin. It literally heals and seals the gut lining. I recommend drinking it first thing in the morning, whether you're drinking mine, whether you're making it yourself. I think it's absolutely essential that you be consuming it regularly and that you are doing it before you put anything else in your body so that that gut lining has a chance to do that. I think what's also really beautiful is at the same time that this gut can be very permeable and sensitive, it is also it's such a fast healer. Like if you fast for, I think it was even like 16 to 17 hours, you're starting to get some of the beginning benefits of autophagy, that cell turnover, the break from digesting these, digestion is stressful on the body. And so just the break from digestion can really help to repair. So anyway, I went on a bone broth diet and I never needed that second surgery 13 years later. I have 6 boys now, not just 5. And I have really made it my life's goal to I felt like I discovered a key that unlocked something for me that could bless so many people if they just knew about it. Yeah. And So to make a long story short, I kept telling people to drink bone broth and they would look at me like, you were insane. Like, and then if I finally convinced them to make it, they would be like, I had to babysit this pot for 24 hours and it didn't even taste good. And so I thought, okay, here's a way that I can really impact people's lives in the way that I was impacted. I experienced freedom. The total trajectory of my life changed, right? And through sourcing the right way, now I have this economic opportunity to support a movement I'm deeply passionate about and to promote the growth of this, right, by supporting these regenerative farms. So it's been a really beautiful journey. I'm sure you know, lots of ups and downs of owning a small business, but
Sure.
really beautiful and happy to do it.
That's great. I mean, there's a lot of similarities. First of all, you're 1000% spot on in the pet world, on tight junctions. Same exact thing in the dog world. And so my dog Gus is 9. Well, he's actually 9 in October. I don't usually hurry up birthdays, but it is around the corner. And there is not a day, and I'm telling you, there is not a day. I take him out twice a day, and he will get seen, and he always carries a ball in his mouth, so he gets attention. People pet him and they engage with him, and then they say, well, oh my gosh, how old is he? And I say, oh, he's 8. And they go, no. I said, how old do you think he is? And they constantly are telling me, oh, I thought he was a puppy. I thought he was 3. I thought he was 4. I don't know, 2. They're constantly in the puppy realm or very young dog realm. And I have only done really one big supplement. I mean, he's had some short-term, like Chinese medicine, stuff like that. But it's only really one supplement, which is Gussy's Gut. And then I either layer that or replace it with Ion Biome, Intelligence in Nature. And that's different. That's if you want to just Google it, folks, fulvic and humic acid. It's the pet formula is actually bound with silica. It's pH balance for dogs. It's different than the human formula. I take it and Gus takes it. And it speaks to that tight junctions. It's basically, look, all the invaders that come into your contact. You mentioned food, but there's also the outside, all the parasites, all the viruses and the bacteria we come in contact with are very good for us. But if you're in a weakened state and you have loose junctions, separations, it's just a wall. It's a fence. And if you have a permeable wall with big, that's not tight, then those things can escape or come through into your system instead of keeping them on the outside. And fermented foods can do that. Really good, healthy food can do that. Keep them tight. And fulvic and humic acid, and there's a few other supplements, but those are really the top, and certainly bone broth. So I want to first of all, I noticed your company is called FOND Regenerative. So you're completely locked into regenerative sourcing. So that's amazing.
Thank you.
So that's amazing. And FOND because
Okay, so fond means foundation or base in French. And really, I wanted people to see fond as the foundation of their culinary and their nutritional life. Like, so often we think indulgence is like that piece of chocolate cake, and like it totally can be, but really it's more like, that heirloom tomato picked in season, that grass-fed, grass-finished steak that's been cooked to perfection. And increasingly people are seeing that. But when we started out, people would be like, what in the world are you talking about? So good tasting and good for you, that is the foundation of FOND.
So you mentioned starting with bone broth in the morning. I will say I am not perfect about this. Kind of depends on my mood. And I give myself a little bit of grace in the morning, but I'm a very much like I drink purity coffee, mycotoxin, mold free, all that stuff. It's also regenerative, well tested. I'm my way with coffee the same way I am with your products. And I regularly consume your tallow and I regularly consume your broth. And I notice first of all, I'll do my coffee first. While it's brewing, I clean my pot. I'll put your broth in. I do not like it hot. I don't like things hot. So I just get it to room temperature. So I drink it. I just pound it. I don't sip it. I don't enjoy it. I know that I could, but I really just, I like the taste, but I'm like, it's a vitamin. I treat it right or wrong. I treat it like a vitamin. I'm like, boom, I did my good thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. I'm alkalizing. I'm getting minerals. Yay. And I actually throw a little bit of red mint salt in there or my coffee. It depends on my, just what I do actually. It's kind of random. And then the tallow, I'll probably be, you really shouldn't be frying potatoes in anything, but I like some fried potatoes. So I'm going to fry my potatoes today with some eggs in tallow, in your tallow. And I give Gus every morning. In fact, I'm doing a little gallbladder routine with him with Chinese med just to give him like a tonic for his gallbladder. I did some testing that showed some early signs of stuff. I'm like, oh, I'm going to address that with some really great Chinese herbs. So I give him a sort of a heaping teaspoon of your tallow. I put the pills in it. I take it with my finger and I feed it to him. But
Yes.
yeah, so your tallow is like a pill pocket, but better. And I every morning and every evening he gets your tallow, unless I'm out of it, and he gets grass fed, this really great grass fed butter. But he always gets a little fat treat. That's his only treat that I give him, and he knows it. He reports right to the refrigerator at exactly the right time. He's in love with the tallow. So, but I also really like, I mean, just I'll even add a little tallow if I'm feeling frisky to your bone broth, and I'll make it
Yes.
extra fatty, which is delicious, you know.
Yes, I love a buttered bone broth or a tallow bone
Oh,
broth. I was gonna say, so the dogs like the broth, like we'll pour it on their food, a little bit, it's great, both dogs and, people for electrolyte replacement. I love that you're drinking it in the morning for that reason, but the dogs are naughty about the tallow. Like I have to, if I don't watch it, they're getting up on the stovetop if I haven't cleaned a pan right away, and they're just driving me nuts with it. But that we love using it, as needed for the pill pocket. It's a great thing to do. The biggest thing we noticed, and it's sort of similar to like cod liver oil or sardines, but their coats are so beautiful, so
yeah.
fluffy. People are always like, where do you get them groomed? And we're like, we have
What do
6
you
kids.
what do you shampoo them with?
Like that's what they eat, and so yeah, I love that one for them too. I also like it for joints. Our Bonnet is getting a little older. I mean, she loves to play and she's not by any means showing any signs of arthritis or anything, but we want to keep her that way. I love that people think Gus is a puppy. I mean, my goodness, what a goal, that as they age. Yeah.
Yeah, and do you have any black dogs?
Well, Bear is a black tri.
Okay, black tri. So it's really, it's hard to get like that really black, like, glossy, really. And so what's funny is like my uncles are AKC show judges, so
Oh, wow.
been doing that for 50 years. So they're always in this mindset of like, well, what did you put on your dog? And I'm like, now they know, but they're always like, man, what do you do? And sometimes they'll forget and they'll ask me again. I'm like, I hose him off like every day or every other day because he'll be in the dirt. I don't want the dirt in my house. So I'll just hose him off. Water. That's all he gets. I rarely, unless he's really been in it, and I can feel it in his fur. I rarely shampoo him. And when I do, it's like all organic oil shampoo. Like, it's like super, it's not stripping or anything. But it's just sort of funny. Like everybody has this idea, like, mostly women's products that like keep your hair really glossy or straight, or, there's even these things like women use in some circles of like laminates for their hair and all these things. And I think people think like, oh my gosh, you have a shiny dog, you must have put something on it. No, it comes from the inside out.
Yes.
Yeah. And the gut skin axis is so important. And what that does and how it feeds not only the skin, but the coats, it happens really fast.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll know, for example, when we went on a 2-week trip this summer and we came back and we were like, okay, they need some tallow, right? You're like, okay, they need a little, and we don't kennel them or anything. We have someone who comes to the house and takes
Same.
care of them because they're, it's their home. They're protecting it. They've got their jobs. And but it happens, it comes back real fast. I love that it's not what goes on it, it's what goes in it. That's, so much, for kids, for women, especially the gut skin access is really a great actually way of communicating with you. It's like if there's some eczema, if there's some acne, like these things, we try to like put salves and medicate them so that they go away, but they're actually communication signals for us, especially if there's dryness. And if you get used to listening to your skin, you can really key into some great, okay, here's what my body is asking for. Here's what I can eat more of. I'm needing help with the skin barrier. Okay, maybe I can apply topically some tallow while I'm also, eating these other foods that are going to help me seal in moisture. So
that's great. Well, you make, I call it pet safe bone broth. And
yes,
honestly, I think most of your recipes are fine. However, some people are super concerned about onions and stuff. I don't think you have enough onions in your bone broth to cause a problem. However, we can just err on the side of caution, and we'll put the link in the notes below, and you can find out what our recommendations are for the bone broth. And we'll give you a discount and all of that. But yours, the ones I use specifically, I do use your unflavored ones, and you've got one broth that's technically, I don't consider it flavored. It's got the herb turmeric in it and black pepper. That's incredible. We have turmeric in our product called Boost, and it's, you can't, honestly, I don't think you can have enough turmeric. You're definitely not really going to OD on it, not through food sources. And then of course your beef tallow.
Yeah. So the turmeric and black pepper, that was one where, okay, if I'm dealing with inflammation, I'm always looking for flavor compounds that unlock nutrients. And so the black pepper, as being a huge, huge one for that. Also fat soluble, right? And so having a little bit of coconut oil or that grass-fed butter or the tallow in there is the best way to drink that little bone broth latte. That's definitely, that's the flavor our dogs love the most, but they also like the pure and unflavored ones as well. We have several flavors that are allium free, to your point, that just don't have onions or garlic in them. And so they're safe for our friends.
I just want to say, what we consider unflavored or lacking a burst of flavor in our mouth, a dog does not. They pick out every molecule of goodness, and it's all biologically species appropriate. Like when they get beef tallow, you don't need to put anything in it. But you have a tallow that has I also think turmeric that I've bought before. So I have fed that, which is another great way to get more turmeric in them. And turmeric is like, if you take it in powder form and you try to add it, it stains everything. Like, I prefer to get my turmeric from both Gussy's Gut Boost and because it's not a big problem. It's not a mess. Once it's incorporated, like in the food, I have added turmeric powder to food. It's honestly kind of a nightmare. And then you got to add a little either fat or pepper to it. So I look for ways that I can slip that in where it's just already done. And I think it's a great way to do it through here. So I want to talk about this bone broth. So there are a ton of bone broths, everybody. Okay, but then let's just take it, let's go really high level. And I think the highest form is regenerative sourced, period, the end, above organic. That means cleanest, best. It's way above organic standards. And I just think there is no higher on the planet. There is no higher sourcing label than true regenerative. And you and I'm sure, see very eye to eye on what is legitimate regenerative. So we're sourcing from these really great companies, ranchers, farmers. What I'd love you to do is could I make my own bone broth? So I used to make my own. The answer is yes. I used to make it in a pressure cooker. Then I learned, because I wanted it fast. Then I learned, oh no, that's not exactly ideal. You're not like, why am I doing bone broth? Am I doing it for the flavor or the nutrients? The answer is nutrients. I want you to tell me why it is I'm buying your bone broth, and I am, instead of making it on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just to echo your point really fast, the number one question we get is, how is regenerative different than organic? And one of the things that's so interesting is the leading regenerative organic certified chicken broiler ranch is in Texas. And we've been out there several times, and Cameron, the CEO and farmer, is a good friend. And we did a whole interview with him on how regenerative is what organic was always meant to be.
That's
before big agriculture was able to exploit the loopholes. And this time they learned. So now it's like, as much as you can make something loophole free, right? And ironclad of, are you improving the soil health, or the microbiome of the soil, right? Which is where all of our food comes from, right?
Which
and
affects your microbiome in turn.
Yes. Yes. It's one of the main reasons I love gardening, right?
Yep.
Also, are the animals thriving? Are they outside? Are they rotational grazing, right? Are they interacting with one another in the ecosystem? I'm not talking about like, are the chickens talking to the cows, but is the system interacting where the chickens are, sort of defecating, and the cows are, and the chickens are moving that out, and those nutrients are returning to the soil. And then you've got the roots of the grasses, which are going, pollinators are returning. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to be a part of. And you can't short circuit it. It's a process.
Cycles.
And exactly. And it's beautiful, and it's restorative. And so I love being a part of that process. So just to echo, yes, regenerative is the highest. What makes FOND different, and we tried to put this on our label, and the USDA would not let us, even though it is true, and we can prove it, because it doesn't fit their definition of bone broth. Okay. Yep. So we use a 1-to-1 ratio of bones to water. And that means it is a nutrient dense elixir. They only require, the technical definition for a bone broth is it's 1 part water, 1 part meat, skin, or bone. They're non-specific, all qualify. Okay, 1 part to 135 parts.
Wow.
Water. Night and day difference, right? We're a 1-to-1 for every pound of bones. We're using a pound of water. We've been that from day one. They are a 1 to 135 is their definition. Wow. And so when we tried to put on our label 1-to-1 ratio of bones to water, they were like, that's not a bone broth. I'm like, it is a bone broth. They're like, well, that's not our definition of a bone broth. So this is the society we live in, right? Yep. So because we have access to, like, you can absolutely make this product on your own. You are going to be spending time doing it, and which is, fine. I do want people to support their local farmers. If you have If you have a farmer that you can support at your local farmer's market, I would love for you to make that bone broth. I would love for you to buy the bones and to simmer that in a pot. The biggest mistake people make with bone broth is they do too much water, right? That's where you don't have that gelatinous texture in the fridge afterwards, right? The other mistake that people make is they either cook it far too long, or they don't cook it long enough. And so if you're cooking your bone broth for 1 to 4 hours, that's a meat broth, and that has gut healing benefits. It's just not as much. Now, when people are super, super sensitive and very histamine sensitive, meat broth is where they should start in their gut health journey, right? Yep. But that is not a bone broth. And so we kind of do a hybrid where ours is a meat and a bone broth, right? We're using these meaty parts of the chickens and the cows, and we are using also the joint and the marrow. And so it's a very nutrient dense elixir. We also have perfected the time. So when you've been making the same product for 10 years, we used to simmer it for 18 hours just to make sure that we were getting all the collagen out. Well, we really found between 13 and 14 hours, you've got all of the collagen extracted from the chicken feet, from the joint knuckle bones. It's broken down. But if you cook it longer than that, then you're starting to degrade some of that. Yep. And so we kind of have this perfect, we've perfected the art of it. The other thing that people do when they make their own bone broth at home is they usually boil it. And when you boil it for a long time, you emulsify the fat. And so that's not necessarily bad, but it's not going to give you the same taste. It's not going to taste the same in your recipes. And this, typical like fond is a little bit translucent, right? That is the hallmark of a true culinary bone broth, is one that's been brought up to a boil. The impurities have been skimmed out of it, and then it's been left at a low simmer, right, to extract nutrients without having that harsh nutrient transfer and then emulsifying the fat. So, I would say, we are experts at what we do, both bone broth and tallow, and we love to share that with you. You can absolutely support your local farmers. We would love that. And we're happy to be your bone broth of choice when you don't have time to get a pot simmering.
We have the same, we have almost identical businesses, because we highly recommend that people ferment on their own. Copy our recipe to the T. If you want to go to your farmer's market, but do try to get in as much or all of our recipe, because we actually created this formula with the nutrients in mind that are shared amongst all these individual vegetables, tubers, herbs, all of that, and go ferment it. And we welcome you, especially we understand that, somebody with 5 big dogs, something that's, produced by us, and the care we put into it, and the fact that it's created to be easy to use. We tried to bring some of the benefits of convenience, being that it's delivered in a powder. It lasts longer. Fresh fermented doesn't last forever, and it lasts a while though. But if you're have enough dogs, they can go through it fast enough. It's great. And you just have to have a little bit of, inconvenience. I mean, what we're looking at for most of our customers is I can't have another thing, but I want to do another really great thing for my dog. I will say this. So I do buy your stuff at Sprouts. That's where I buy I bought online from you, but now it's in my Sprouts, and that's where I get it. It's always pretty much in stock. There's a couple of times it's not, and I just will be like, okay, I'll get it like next week, it'll be in. And it looks, when you look on a shelf compared to the other bone broths, you'd be like, oh my gosh, like this is so expensive. First of all, folks, you either get it because you want it to work, or you don't. You want it to taste great, but also you don't have to have as much of FOND as you would another product.
It's true.
And sometimes I'm telling you, it's like, I had a really great doctor tell me, oh yeah, you probably have to drink an entire quart to get some benefit that you would from like, a quarter cup or half a cup of FOND. So when I do something, I want it to be, so I look at the true cost of food also, and I'm looking at what the company's doing. And we also have the same thing in common, where we're using our businesses to pull regenerative forward and really create an entire farming revolution that's making soil better, making people's health better, paying people what they are worth on the farm, keeping these young farmers that want to go regenerative in their family farms that have been in there for sometimes generations. So what you're getting, I think, with both of our companies, which I so appreciate about you, is you're doing all of these things. Like your one vote of that purchase is just doing all of these things. I mean, we wrote a check to White Oak Pastures for $30,000 to support scholarships for all the young farmers that maybe can't afford to learn and to come and spend time at White Oak Pastures, learn all that. I couldn't write a check as a person for $30,000 for that mission. So we give 5% back, and that's just for our treats. We just have one White Oak Pastures because that's the only product that has meat in it from us, is our treats. And so we're able and empowered to have these ripple effects, not only in your dog's health, but also on the planet's health. I mean, true planetary health, not greenwashing and lip service and silliness, but real, true change. And that comes from the soil. I mean, you want to talk about, sorry for getting on a soapbox, but
No.
you want to talk about, carbon sequestration, folks. I mean, the soil is where it's at. I mean, way beyond trees. Trees are great. And I love trees. Plant trees. I love trees. But take care of the soil. And any excess carbon in the air that you may be worried about, it'll all be taken care of in the soil. And in fact, you don't need that many farms in the world to be regenerative, to take care of all of the needs of, excess carbon in the air that you may want to take care of. So you have any thoughts on that?
I do. I do. First of all, it's funny because we kind of focus on these things that we are told to, and the carbon cycle is like definitely something to watch out for. Regenerative has a great answer for that. Nitrogen is 2 times as weighty. We don't even talk about the nitrogen cycle, and regenerative farming is so good for sequestering carbon and nitrogen from the air. And I think, it's a privilege this year, Rob. We will do 1 million regenerative bones just in our chicken line. Like, our customers did that. I think both you and I realize, like, we're not here unless people are choosing to go with us, right? And I love how we are pushing this movement forward together with our customers. And it's happening, like 1 million pounds just this year. And it's it's amazing that the supply chain has grown to do that. It's amazing that the demand is meeting it there, and that there's a growth path forward. And so really what we're showing is, like, regenerative agriculture is a sustainable way to grow a business. Because people are always going to care about the economic side. Like, can you make money investing in a regenerative company? Will that grow? The number one question when we did anyway, long story short, we had a fire and we were raising a Series A before the fire. Number one question people would ask me was, well, do you think you'll have the supply chain? Do you think you'll have the supply chain? Do you think, and you say yes, but 3 years later, we've proven it out, right? Yeah. And, no institutional funding needed to get there, right? Just customers choosing to push forward with us. And so I love that. It's so important. I think, I will never forget, I was reading an article about our plans for Mars and how the hope for humanity is going to be, a station on Mars. And my husband just was laughing and he said, why don't we terraform Arizona? Like, why are we just this beautiful, beautiful planet that we've been given? Like, it is amazing. And why aren't we leaning in? Like, why are we're too far gone? We've got to go to Mars. And especially having, 6 boys, we're looking to the future. And when you have these reports of, losing 5-10 tons of topsoil per acre per year, when you think about, just the agrarian crisis in the US, I have, my grandparents are traditional dairy farmers. They do soy, corn, and wheat. I'm one of those people that hopes one day to do that regeneratively.
Yep. No, it's amazing. It's amazing the similarities we have. I'm struck by it. And I would say on a surface level, I saw it just reading labels and your website, but just speaking to you, it's just so clear that, you're boiling knuckles and getting all the absolute great elements out of the knuckles, right? The knuckle bones. And that's what we do with our pork treats. Like, we go to White Oak and we say, hey, sell us your trim, the trim that nobody wants to put on their plate. It may be tougher meat, but it's great meat. And we help them achieve their mission of zero waste, so that we're honoring every part of that pig, which is a heritage pig, and the life of that pig that's, slaughtered super humanely and lived an amazing life. I've been there on the ground with the pigs. It lived this incredible, honestly, true, incredible life, better than they would in the wild. And and then they have to grow those whiskers and those fangs if they're in the wild. So it saved them from that, right? But they're just so beautiful, and they're happily having babies because they're content and they're happy, and there's no artificial anything to get them to do any of that. They're out in the world with more space than they honestly need. Sometimes I look and I'm like, that's a lot of space. And, and they're not using it almost ever, all the space. And so I am just so proud of, because I always say, like, dogs don't care if it's tough, if it's a tougher piece of steak. Who cares? We're going to grind it up all naturally with blades. We'll grind it up and we'll put it in a great treat, combine it with our fermented and a little bit of honey. Bob's your uncle. And they are ravenous for these treats. And they can just, I think, even though we're a very simple ingredient treat, we believe that the animals can sense every single part of how that animal was cared for, the quality of that animal, what that animal ate. In an instant, they can sniff all of that out and just are like, great, I'm in. So, good on you. I want to know about vinegar, because what I see is most broths have vinegar, and I want your opinion on that.
Okay, so I love apple cider vinegar. I think it is just, if it's made the right way, I think it's an incredible, not only blood sugar balancer, it can definitely help to extract nutrients from the bones. I think for us, we found that by using lemon juice instead, sometimes we liked the flavor profile better. We do have a flavor that I love, that's fennel and bay leaf with apple cider vinegar. And it's a delicious one, but it's funny. It is not a bestseller, even though it's my darling. Right. And so I think people who are, bone broth is also cooked for a longer period of time.
Yep.
So I don't, bone broth should not be your probiotic source. Now, after you warm it up, can you put some kimchi brine in there? Yes. Can you put some sauerkraut in there? Absolutely. But our product as it's designed right now is just a really amazing shelf-stable elixir, high quantities of great amino acids, hyaluronic acid, like anything you need for hair, teeth, skin, nails, joints, gut health. That is the product that we're making. But adding things to that, we love that. And, my family, our kids had like soda the other day for the first time ever. They were like, what is this? We usually have kombucha as like our treat, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just how they've grown up. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the treat that they know. And so we are all for probiotics. We see bone broth as a foundational component, and truly for us in the brewing process, we finish our bone broth with apple cider vinegar sometimes, like in the last stages of the process, just so it's not, cooked for the 13 hours. And then it's like, why is this even in here? So I love apple cider vinegar. We don't use it in our process, and we did try it in our process, and we just felt, I think it could also be too, like we only brew in stainless steel. So like every part of our process is plastic free. And so I don't know if there was this is pure speculation, but I don't know if there's something between like the vinegar and like the stainless steel that we were brewing it in. We just, it was very clear early on that we could use it to finish the broth, and it could be a part of the flavoring component, but we weren't going to have it be an integral part of the process. We've never had trouble extracting nutrients from the bones. We haven't needed an apple cider vinegar to do that. So that's our take on it, but I love it. I drink it several times a day. I love to drink it with water in the morning, or I do lemon juice. I kind of trade off whichever one, like you, however I'm feeling in the moment in the morning. But yeah, I love it. But yeah, it's not something that's in our bone broth as part of every recipe.
Well, I'm the same way. What I pulled out of that was, it's great to do, you don't want to cook it. It's great to do as a shot, or add it maybe to lukewarm or whatever. Control how much, if you want a therapeutic dose, all of
Yeah.
that. But I like that yours doesn't have it, and I like the taste of it much better than the ones that do have it. And I do wonder, I don't have any information on this, but I do wonder in some of these septic, what do they call them? The
Aseptic. Yeah.
aseptic, yeah. The cardboardy packaging types, what that acid level, pH level does to the lining.
Yeah.
And, thinking through these things can make you feel, you know, just like you're like, oh my gosh, can I just relax for a
Yeah.
second? But you really do think about these things over time, especially when you're creating products and um, thinking about like, okay, well, this is going to be like our packaging. We spend a lot of time. We use pouches because honestly, glass would be, as you know, when you ship, it would exponentially increase the shipping. It causes a lot of breakage. I'm sure you have to go through a ton of you had to work really hard, especially on the shipping part for direct to consumer. But I think your product is perfectly and uniquely and definitely suited for glass for sure. Um, and it's liquid, which is even scarier for breaking. Whereas ours, because it comes in powder, we just want to make sure it was a clean packaging, and when we talk about, of course, BPA free, but also like PFOS and PFAS
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
free. So it's funny because when we went to the packaging companies, they wrote us a letter that they're free, that they know they're free, they've tested it, but there was no certification. I said, where's the certification? There's got to be a certification for this. And there wasn't. So they did say they're trying to work on that. But we are very particular about, if we're particular in the sourcing, we're certainly going to be particular in the end stage, which is the packaging it goes in.
Mm-hmm.
And some people wonder, like, well, why are you guys using, can't you use less pouches and stuff? The other thing too is permeability. And I'm sure you understand this, like, you know, oxygen moisture barrier, and keeping something safe and keeping it, from degrading, and just basically the quality there, because exposure to moisture for sure, and oxygen even
Yeah.
can degrade all of that. So people don't think about this. You think, well, a package is a package is a package, I just have to decide on the color. No, it's very, very important what that material is, and how it's made. It's very, very important.
Yeah, people don't realize like just how caustic and corrosive oxygen is. It was funny, they found like a Civil War boat that had sank and had canned food
Mm.
on the ship, and they tested it, and it still had some, it hadn't been opened, and it still had some nutritive value. And it's like, I mean, you're like, what? And so yes, oxygen, it's super important that it's safe. It's super important that there's no, for us, we have to be completely sealed, and no oxygen in the environment whatsoever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, even with our tallow, we thought about other packaging for it, and really wanted to stay with glass as well, because we didn't want to put an oil in a plastic, right, which is already like derived from a plastic and then is transferring, yucky stuff
Yep.
into the tallow. And so yeah, we're committed to glass. We're really looking to innovate in, I do want the product to be available for people who are traveling. A constant request for us is, can you make it powdered? And, if we're always looking into innovative ways to make our product powdered. What we're not going to do is go to someone else and have, this completely different product marked as FOND that's not even brewed the way ours is. And so we're working on it. It's something customers always ask us to do, because again, not everyone can have this product in its form, or if they're traveling overseas, or, it's difficult to take it. So we hear them, and we're always working on it, but we like glass, and we like innovating in that for now.
That's awesome. Well, Alysa, how do we find you? We can find you at Food Fond Regenerative, right?
Yep.
.com.
Yep.
And then what are you on all your social handles?
So I'm just Alysa Seeland. I post about life being a mom of 6 boys and running a business, and would love to connect with you there. And we are also on Instagram and TikTok at FOND Regenerative. And so that's where you can find us.
That's great. And what stores are you in? So you said, I know Sprouts because that's where I buy you.
Yep.
What else?
We are nationwide at Sprouts with our bone broth and our tallow. We are nationwide with Albertsons for our tallow. So if there's an Albertson Safeway store near you, we are in Whole Foods nationwide for our tallow and our bone broth as well. So, and lots of amazing mom and pop shops. Like, again, we love being in these larger chains so that people have access to it. Like, if you go into Sprouts, it's probably going to be there. But we also so we've got a great store locator on our site, because we love supporting the mom and pop shops too.
That's great. And in our social posts where these videos are, in our show notes of our podcast for audio only, and our YouTube, we'll post the link below, and we'll show you what I choose for Gus and recommend to our customers in your line. And we really want to thank you for spending a little bit of time in your very busy schedule. I don't know, honestly, what's busier, you being the founder of FOND or the 6 boys and the 2 dogs. But anyway, I really want to thank you for spending some time. Thanks, Alysa.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks everybody for listening or watching. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.